are back again. You are listening to IBGR.network. IBGR is our call sign as a radio station, but of course, we are so much more than a radio station. We are a network of global entrepreneurs sharing tips, tools, and ideas with you, and because we want to guide and support you to become the successful entrepreneur you always wanted and deserve to be. So join us. I'm glad you're here. If you're already here, thank you. And if you know other people, like and share this with other people, whether it's you hear it on a podcast or you hear it on the radio or you hear it with from the Facebook Live and you watch it, because of course all this is getting downloadable in podcast as well, so you can always share if you hear a good one, and you don't even have to listen to all four, because all four sections are separately downloadable. So if the first session you say, well, that's just information, I don't need it, you don't need it. You can say, okay, I need this particular session. You've got 15 minutes spare. Listen to it now. But it's great. So anyway, of course, I'm your host, Jan Robberts, inspirational entrepreneur. And this is episode 6. Getting to know yourself is a serious business. And if you want to, you can already download our show notes at ibgr.network, where Donna every week does an enormous amount of work together with Bill, and Donna is already online as well. It was 6 o'clock in the morning when I start in Eastern America, and she was already concerned that I wasn't there in time. But when Slack, where we communicate through, was actually down on my laptop. Anyway, we were very lucky because we had an amazing amount of thunder and lightning last night. Really bad weather. It blew up one of the substations here, and we had no power until about 11:30 this morning. So glad they repaired it. Thank you, Eskom. I mean, for all that happens, we're glad we've got power, and we'll hopefully keep it as well. So Arthi, in 2.5 hours time, Arthi Moore, my partner, my amazing partner, who you must watch her. You must listen to her, because she comes with absolute amazing stuff. Today, I think it is talking into diversity and inclusion, and we can all do a lot more with it. We're in a global, entrepreneurs are going global using online, and we can all do so much more when we learn how to connect with people who are different from us. Now, I talk about this in a communicating way, in learning how you communicate and your learning styles. But Arthi probably, I don't know if she's also talking about learning styles because it's part of diversity. But she is the one of, I mean, I don't know necessarily the only, but certainly one of the foremost diversity and inclusion specialists. So if you want to know more about diversity and inclusion, join us at in an hour and a half time when Arthi is going live. And of course, after me, Tina Ogbugo from Nigeria is on as well. There is every hour there is amazing stuff on here. So stay with us. Don't just leave after I come on, and don't just come on after I leave. But that you wouldn't know that because you didn't hear I said that. But yeah, from those simple examples about the elevator and the holiday, you will already have recognized yourself in one of these 4 basic styles. Now, there is plenty of information about this online for you to delve into deeper and further. And if you really want to know more, connect with me for an assessment and a debrief session, which will open your world to so many people, and like so many people have experienced. But does it start to make a little bit of sense to you that to get to know yourself can be very beneficial in your business life as well as your private life and your social life? However, before connecting this in a meaningful way to entrepreneurship, there is another important aspect, I've already mentioned it, of getting to know yourself, which I must talk into, your learning styles. Now, your learning style talks about the way you learn. Well, that might surprise you, but as I said, my amazing partner and fellow IBGR host Arthi Moore is an absolute expert in this. I mean, people keep asking if she's got a crystal ball. She's so good with this. She can tell you so many more things than I will ever be able to do about you and the way you live by your learning styles alone. But and she provides us in diversity and inclusion as well as in standalone workshops. But it is amazing. But there is a connection with your personality profile, of course, and your behavior style. But this is distinctly different and needs addressing under this heading as well. Getting to know yourself. The way we learn has a direct influence to how we receive information and how we communicate as well. Now, there are 3 main learning styles: visio, audio, and kinesthetic. It's VAK, VAK. Now, and I will very briefly talk into each one of those So you get, again, a basic idea. But there is so much more information online if you type in the ways we learn. You can Google that and you find a lot of information in there as well. So let's start with visual learners. Now, visual learners are people, you might surprise you, they learn by visual, by pictures, but they talk fast. They've got a lot to say, but in a very short period of time. Now, you should have heard me when I was a little kid. I fell over my words. I had so much to say when I was little. But they also think in pictures. You know, when you ask them a question that they have to think about, they quite often look up and actually kind of looking into their picture file up here somewhere to find the answers. So they think in pictures, and they use words such as look, show, see, wait till I show you. No, that kind of language that also talks into visual arts, into the visual side of it. And if they describe directions for you, they do that with landmarks. You know, there's a Kentucky in the corner there, there's a yellow church, there is a big tree in the middle of the road, and there's a roundabout, all kinds of landmarks. But don't ask them the street names. They're visual people. The only street names they probably know is if the huge motorway signs, they are so huge that you can't miss them, then they might have a chance that they actually know them. But that is very briefly visual. Then you get audio learners. Now audio again. Words are important to them. They talk lots, well, as expected. You know, and there is combination. Now you are a combination of all three, and two of them stand out very clearly for anybody. But they talk lots, and they think in words. When you ask them a question, they need to think about. So if you're right-handed, they have a quick look to the left ear, and if you're left-handed, they have a quick flinch to the right ear. You know, because they're looking for information. Yeah, the visuals looking for information in the pictures. They look for information from the sound. So they think in words, and they use words such as hear, speak, tell, say. Like a sentence like "I must tell you." You know that those kind of words are audio kind of words. And if they describe, very interestingly, if they describe directions, it's street names, 70 yards to the corner, and then you take this street and that street, but don't interrupt them. Because if you interrupt them halfway through, I mean, you only want the directions from one place, and they find out where you originally came from and start describing them from there. You interrupt them in the middle, they'll go back straight to the beginning, because they have a certain amount of words, they need to come out, they need to explain it properly, so don't interrupt them. But they talk in words, they use street names to describe things. And then lastly, but certainly not least, now you have kinesthetic learners. And beautiful people. Now, they talk thoughtfully. So the visual, they talk in pictures. The audio, they talk in words. And these things talk thoughtfully. And they learn by moving and doing. And the hand movements are everywhere. And they normally look to the dominant side and down. When you ask them a question they need to think about. And they normally take a fair bit of time as well, because they're kind of... my partner Artie always uses an example where you ask them what they want to drink, and then they're thinking what they want to drink, and then you give them options like tea, coffee, and all that kind of stuff, and they start tasting all this kind of stuff, before they ever give you an answer. And the other two get frustrated because how simple, how difficult can it be? I mean, tea, coffee, or water? What do you want? And then you say, and if you, what kind of tea have you got? So you get the picture. It takes a bit of time for them to bring all that information together and to either taste or feel or do whatever before they give you an answer, because they're thoughtful. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. It sometimes frustrates people, but there's nothing wrong with it. They are just thoughtful people. And they use words like feel, felt, move, touched, and things like I sense that, and then something comes. So again, you get these touchy-feely kind of words. Now, when they describe directions, it is very funny, because they describe this with movement, as if they're actually sitting in the car beside you. So they at the end of this road you turn right, and then you go over a hill, and the people on Facebook can actually see this. For the radio it's a bit difficult, but I'm going around with my hands and movement, and then you turn around there, and it's all kinds of movement. You go under a bridge, you go over a hump, and they live the journey. But street names and all those kind of stuff, no. But they they give you that direction. So if you see somebody who makes a lot of hand movements as they're talking all the time, then there is a good chance that there is at least part of they're either audio kinesthetic or visual kinesthetic, or the other way around if they're mostly kinesthetic. But there is different kind of ways in which that can be explained. But for that to happen, you need to delve more into it. And it says the ways we learn is a place where you find so much more information about this. But you remember now that if you can talk to your children, and if your child always sits in a corner talking to, I'm talking to kinesthetic ones now, if they're sitting in a corner doing stuff by themselves, but they hear everything. So if you ask them a question, they know. They don't have to look at you, they know. And that's some of the information, but to give you an idea that if now you need to realize that they don't have to face you all the time for them to hear things. And they pay attention to everything. But it is those kind of simple little things that make a big difference if you're looking at how you can connect better with your spouse and your children. You know, if you talk a lot and you have a lot of words, some of the visual people, they're after 1 or 2 minutes, and I'm being generous to them, they're still in the building physically, but mentally they've left a long time ago. And of course, as a visual person, you might need to explain a little bit more to an audio person. You know, that starts to make a bit of sense as well. So now we're going to talk in the next session and the last session in how you can put all of this together as an entrepreneur and a business owner to connect more effectively with your clients, with your partners, with your employees, with your suppliers, with your family, your friends, and by doing so become more successful, because you've seen them, the people who connect well. You want to be one of them. These are some of the things you need to implement. So on the radio now, we're going to take a break. But don't go away. Join us at ibgr.network and come back in a few minutes. Take care.